Hi, welcome everybody. We are here today, and joining me is a very special guest. I'm going to bring him right on. I would like for everybody to welcome Jeff Harry. And Jeff and I are going to talk to you for a few minutes. Jeff, I promised us a little bit funner background, and I think I hit the wrong button or something. So let me get that. So Jeff is joining us for a fun discussion. We are going to talk to you about so many different things, but one of the main topics is a seminar coming up. I'm Latanya McElroy. I am right now a Chief People Officer for a company here in Texarkana, BCS, and I am a senior professional in human resources, and I serve as a volunteer for the Tri-State SHRM chapter. I'm president of the chapter this year, and I'm excited. I'm also the author of Workforce Champion Breaking Through book and a podcast, Why Not You, which you might hear this on the podcast. I want to introduce our special guest today. Jeff Harry is an international positive psychology play speaker. I did say play. Jeff Harry combines positive psychology and play to heal workplaces, to help teams build psychological safety and assist individuals in addressing their biggest challenges through embracing a play-oriented approach to work. Jeff was selected by Bamboo HR and engaged as one of the top 100 influencers and has been featured in the New York Times, Mashable, Upworthy, Shondaland, and Wired. Jeff has worked with Google, Microsoft, Southwest Airlines, Adobe, the NFL, Amazon, and Facebook, helping their staff to infuse more play into the day to day. While we spend most of our time pretending to be important, serious grown-ups, it's when we let go of that facade and just play that the real magic happens. Fully embracing your own nerdy genius, whatever that is, gives you the power to make a difference and change lives. Oh my gosh, welcome, Jeff.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited about this.
Me too, actually. I don't even know how to begin, actually. So our Tri-State SHRM chapter, I'll tell you a little bit about that. And Jeff, we're one of 32 or 33 chapters in the state of Texas under the Society for Human Resources Management. All of us are volunteers. We volunteer and we're part of a greater network called the Society for Human Resources Management, which is a national organization with worldwide, actually, organization with hundreds of thousands of HR professionals. And I want to give a quick shout out to all of our HR family because it's a huge network of people who support one another in the profession and help make our workplaces better. And in the interest of helping to make our workplaces better, our annual seminar is coming up on September 13th. And that is Jeff, the seminar that you're a part of and our keynote speaker for. And I'm just excited to share this with our community in hopes that both our virtual and our local Texarkana, or greater Texarkana community will come and join us for the half-day seminar on September 13th. So Jeff, I want to talk to you and ask you a few questions. We're going to learn about you today. It's all about you. And so I noticed reading somewhere that you called yourself the nerdy, quirky kid.
Yep.
And as an international speaker, because you're like literally going all over the place, you told me Montreal is tonight, which, is just amazing to know that you're doing all that you're doing and you're here with us. So thank you for that. But how did you bring your full self to your profession? And how did you make this your life's work?
Yeah. So I'll give you the brief Batman origin story. So did you ever see the movie Big with Tom Hanks?
Yes.
So I saw that in third grade,
Mm-hmm.
and he was playing with toys for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is that a real job? I can't believe that's a real job. So I started writing toy companies in third grade. And I didn't stop until I got into the toy industry, I think 15 years later. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this where you've gotten exactly what you've always wanted. and then
Yeah.
been so disappointed when you got there, right? But
Yeah.
I arrived in the toy industry. I was working for a toy company. There was like no toys, no fun, no high fives,
Mm.
no play, right?
Yeah.
Um, not very innovative.
Mhm.
And it was, I was so dejected that I left that industry. I left New York. I came to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I bumped into an organization that only had 7 people at the time teaching
Mhm.
kids engineering with Lego, but they
Mhm.
were playing for a living. And I was like, well, I want to play for a living. And they were only paying like $150 a week. But I was like, we could actually make this a thing.
Mhm.
And I stuck with this organization. We grew it from 7 people to 400 people. And it
Wow.
became the largest Lego inspired STEM organization in the US.
Wow.
We taught 100,000 kids a year. We taught 1 million kids over the span of 10 years. But we did it all by playing, like no business plan. We picked cities we thought were fun. We picked people we thought were fun. And we just kind of made it up as we went along. We failed a lot, but we just embraced the play oriented approach. And we got the attention of a lot of those companies you mentioned because we were in the Bay Area, right? Facebook, Google, Adobe. And they were like, hey, do you do team building events? Hey, do you do special events where you can just build gigantic things out of Lego? And we were like, of course we can. No, we didn't. We didn't know what we were doing, but we just said yes to the play, right? You
Yeah.
said yes to that.
Mhm.
And then I started working with a bunch of these top tech companies, in the world over the next decade. And
Mhm.
I found even though they were so innovative in many ways, they still exhibited a lot of, toxicity at work or
Mhm.
challenges at work or not having difficult conversations. So I created Rediscover Your Play about 2 years ago with the focus of how do we actually tackle the hardest issues that
Yeah.
companies are facing using play, whether that's dealing with a toxic person, whether that's dealing with toxic masculinity, whether that's helping your staff to find their flow. That's what we're going to be talking about, on Tuesday. How do you get your staff to do their zone of genius so that you can get the most out of your staff as well as they get the most out of the job as well?
Mhm.
How do you address burnout? All these issues can be tackled using positive psychology and play.
Listen, as you're speaking, I literally feel you canceling out all these negative emotions that come up when you think about all of those difficult things we do every day. And I mean, there's just a different feeling. I don't know how to explain it, but I can understand exactly what you mean because if you can operate from this place of positivity, it gives you a whole different perspective.
Yeah, and
I'm
play can
so
also be very diffusive, right? It
right, right.
creates a playground. If you're able to
Mhm.
do it right, it
Mhm.
creates a playground where people are able to connect with
Yeah.
each other's inner child. You're able to see your colleague in a totally different way, right?
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of times we're trying to do. I hate forced fun, right? Like I hate where you got to do the escape from the room and you put Samantha in there with Chad. If Samantha and Chad hate each other to begin with, they're going to hate each other after the escape from the room. Like that's not going to address it. But if you're willing to have difficult conversations and you're willing to ask your staff, to share, more of what their perspective is on work, you start to build that trust and you start to build that psychological safety. And then people start to play on their own terms
Yes.
as a way to be more innovative and be more creative to address a lot of problems that we're going into in the new normal that none of us know how to tackle yet.
Mhm. Yeah, and it frees us from the need to have to know how.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing, you just do it. You just go and you figure it out. And a lot of our stress is around thinking we have to know how to do this. And let me tell you, I want to have to tell Samantha and Chad that I did not tell them your name. tell you their name. They're the names of two of my colleagues, and I just thought, oh my gosh, that was so funny, Jeff.
Uh,
So everything you said is getting me excited about what's coming up. But before we talk about the seminar
mhm.
um, and September 13th, let's talk about the business case.
Yeah.
I know that it brings out it helps them find their flow, it helps them work better, it helps them play better. But at the end of the day, when we build a business case, we're always
Mhm.
responsible for building the metrics to
Right.
show a CEO or our board or our chief executives or our leaders what's the bottom line.
Yeah.
How does this add up to to success in the workplace? So can you kind of share a little bit about how you've made the case for that?
Yeah. So there's an author named, I believe, Alex Johnson, who says the future is where people are having the most fun.
Hmm.
Right. And if you think about that quote, you think about who were the most innovative companies during the pandemic, right? Whether that was like TikTok, or at the time it was Clubhouse or Netflix or Hulu, like who was actually taking risks during this time? Who was actually experimenting? And the organizations that were more willing to play and more willing to experiment were more profitable. And a case study that you can actually point to directly, Google, when they first started off, I think they did this for the first 10 to 15 years, had something called the Google 20% rule, where they would give their staff a fifth of their time to pursue whatever they wanted, as long as it benefited Google.
Hmm.
Out of that 20% of time that they gave their staff, 40% of their major products came from that. So we're talking about Gmail, Google Meet, what is it? Google Ads, so much of the foundation, Google Earth, I believe as well. So much of the foundation of Google was built off of play. It was built off of giving your staff the freedom and the opportunity to be creative and innovative, right? Now, a lot of organizations are like, well, I can't give my staff a fifth of their time to do whatever they want. Fine. But you can identify what is your staff's zone of genius. What's the work where they forget about time? What's the work where they would do this work even though they were not getting paid to do it,
Yeah.
right? Because when their staff are doing flow work, they're 500% more productive, 5 times more productive. And then in addition to that, it increases their productivity, but it also reduces their turnover because now they feel seen, heard, and appreciated more,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
So there's so many benefits from, like, you're saving money because people aren't quitting, which a lot of people are dealing with right now. You're having people actually engaged in their work rather than quiet quitting, as that's one of the buzz terms that we're talking about, and then on top of that, you're having them come up with innovative new ways of thinking about problems and how to approach them, because frankly, like we said earlier, no one knows what they're doing. We're all making it up as we come out of this pandemic, and we're all scrambling to figure it out. And play is the opposite of perfection, right? And perfection is rooted in like ego and shame and constantly being right, and play is rooted in like awe and curiosity and following your intuition, right? And the more you're able to do that, especially now, the more you're going to actually thrive and be more profitable, frankly.
Yeah. So you hit on a couple of key things, and that's growth and innovation, which is one of our company's core values. And a lot of companies say that's their core value. They want to grow, they want to innovate. But the reality is, when you go to a lot of places or when you talk to a lot of people in interviews, what you hear is, I want to leave my organization because they don't listen to any of my feedback or my
Mm-hmm.
ideas, or I mean, I feel like we're doing things that don't work. As a matter of fact, the company I work for was built off of the fact that they felt that companies were doing things that didn't work and wanted to come up
Yeah,
with a better way. And the reality that you're sharing is that in order for companies to succeed, they really have to do that, not just put that on a billboard or in an email or on a core values sheet. That's an everyday thing, and play helps you do that. And
absolutely.
innovation.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. There's so many companies that do not represent their values, or do not actually I ask this to, C-suite executives all the time, right? Or I ask them two questions. One is, how are you implementing your values through action, right?
Mhm.
And then the other question I ask a lot also is like, what is the worst behavior you're currently tolerating?
Yeah.
Because that's also setting a culture, right?
Mhm.
And talk about what you just said, right? Microsoft, the person that Microsoft should have the software of Zoom, because the Zoom creator used to work for Microsoft and was trying to turn Microsoft meetings into Zoom. And they were like, no, 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 we're good. We will do it this way. So he leaves and then creates what everyone was using during the pandemic, right? So this is the lack of freedom that actually crushes innovation and crushes creativity. And when you allow for a playground to actually exist in your organization, you are able to save yourself from your best talent leaving and creating their own organizations, or helping a competitor out that eventually will take market share from you. So like there's a strong case study of like play needs to be in your organization for you to actually not even just thrive, but to survive.
Yeah. And people, at the end of the day, people want to have fun. My kids will say to me, "Mom, why are you working 10 hours a day? Like, why?" Well, no, that wouldn't what they would actually say. Are you still working? Are you still working? And the truth is, a lot of times, if you're doing what you love, it never feels like work. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like play, and you enjoy it so much that you don't need anybody. And this is during a time where we're behind closed doors. Nobody knows what we're doing, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
bet you I'll bet you the people who are having the most fun and who are enjoying their work were probably the ones who are actually working their full day and then
Yeah.
and or being 100% plus productive even when no one was looking.
Right.
So I really appreciate you sharing. I'm going to ask you about the seminar. We have a few days left for the seminar, and it's on the 13th. It's a half day. You're the keynote speaker for that event. It's at the Texarkana Convention Center here on Calhoun Creek Road in Texarkana, Texas. And it's actually open to, if it's okay with you, we have a meeting owl. And so we open our events up hybrid so that anyone can join. And that allows for people who can't physically get to the facility
Mm-hmm.
to see the slides and to hear not only the presenters, but to hear the audience response and feedback. You feel like you're a part of it. And we want as many people as possible to be in the room. But I'm going to share, I'm going to kind of, I have some information I'm going to put on the screen so that you can see a little bit more about that. And I'll let that play for a little while we continue the conversation. So, talking about what's coming up, can you share with those who are coming to the event and those who register, what are they going to get out of it?
Yes. So the workshop, we're going to be focusing on rediscovering your flow through play. So what we are focused on doing is identifying what is your favorite way in which you work, right?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
do we connect that to play values from the past, from when you were a kid, in
Mm-hmm.
order to do even more innovative work? And we're going to
Mm-hmm.
do that as a community, and we're going to do that through a lot of playful engagement
Mm-hmm.
within the group, right? So it's not just going to be me talking, but us actually exploring what were your play values? How did you like to play play as a kid? Because in many ways, the way in which you play as a kid are the ways in which you work now. Those are the ways in which you best work. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to help you actually rediscover that for yourself. And then in addition to that, by you doing this exercise, then you can actually take this back to your workplace and implement this with your team, so you can figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to tap into their zone of genius.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'll also make the case of why is it really important for play and flow to be infused into work. So I'll be going into a lot of the positive psychology science and studies that can make that case for you, so that
Mm-hmm.
you can go back to your team and be like, here are some studies that actually communicate
Yeah.
why we need to actually infuse more creativity and innovation into our day to day.
Yeah, I love it, and it's probably the cheapest train the trainer you're ever going to get. You're training us so we can go back and infuse this into our workplaces, and I can't wait to bring it back to mine. I want to ask you this, um, and then I want to say this for sure. Those of you who don't feel comfortable doing that, you can always invite Jeff. Jeff can make it a whole lot more fun than I can. But Jeff, I'm definitely going to do what you said and take that back. I hope others will attend and take it back to our workplaces. Let me ask you this. If you're there or if you're thinking about coming and you're not sure if this is for you, can you tell us, Jeff, uh, who out there may be thinking, is this for me or someone else? Who should come to a seminar like this?
Yeah.
Who would be the best audience for what you're going to share?
Well, I think a lot of leaders that are trying to figure out how to engage their staff or re-engage their staff right now, maybe a lot of teams that are dealing with either burnout or dealing with a lot of turnover, still experiencing the great resignation. I would communicate that to a lot of leaders. Also for people that are like, you know what, I'm kind of stuck. I don't know what I love now. I don't, like coming out of the pandemic, I'm kind of confused of what type of work I want to do going forward, right? And then you're just kind of in a malaise. This also could kickstart new ideas on like, okay, what is the best work that I can do and how can I contribute best to my team and best to my company? So leaders that are trying to re-engage, and then also people that are just trying to figure out what's next for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I mean, so that sounds like it's more than just HR people, because a lot of times when we do HR seminars, people think, oh, that's just for the HR people. Well, a lot of companies have people who wear the culture hat. You may not be HR, but you're responsible. Somehow you impact workplace culture, you impact your team, or you personally need this. So I'm excited to know it's open. I want to ask you what those who are thinking about signing up, it's $75 if you're $75 if you're a non-member of SHRM, Tri-State SHRM, or the Chamber of Commerce in your area, and 65, which is $10 off if you are a member of any of those SHRM, Tri-State SHRM, any of the SHRM chapters, or a Chamber of Commerce, because we want to connect businesses with HR. And this seminar, we want to make sure we're engaging all of our companies and teams in our communities. But tell me the value. I mean, it's $75 or $65. But tell me what you would estimate the real value in something like this. Now, there's you, and there's going to be pay equity. Just compensation strategies, war strategies, and there's going to be a workplace investigations discussion, or a piece about how to prepare your workplace for investigations, and that's from an attorney. This is Kimmer Moore, who's doing the pay equity or pay strategy, and it's Dustin Pascal, who's doing the attorney, who's doing the other one. So tell me what you think the estimated value is in something.
I mean, I always love to say this is like, how much is turnover costing you? Right? Like $75, like turnover costs companies 6 to 9 months of someone's salary, right? That's a lot of money. If you're paying someone $60,000 a year, that's between $30,000 to $45,000 per year. If you can figure out how to re-engage a staffer that is potentially on their way out, that's huge. Also, how valuable is it for you to figure out your zone of genius work, the work where you forget about time, how to actually fall in love with your work again? What value would you put on that? Right. And also, when was the last time you played at work? Right. When was the last time you played at a SHRM event, and able to connect with other people and share your challenges with them, as well as share like your dreams and aspirations? So between the connection, between, being able to figure out how to retain employees, and between figuring out, your next like meaning of work life balance and how you pursue stuff that actually brings you joy, that's a lot of value right there. That's a ton of value right there. So I would put a number on it, but it's definitely in the tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. So $75, like, that doesn't seem like a lot.
No, it doesn't. Not to be able to enjoy your life and your work for years to come. So I want to tell you guys that are listening, maybe you are someone who's like, I am listening to this like 5 days later, 10 days later, or on a podcast, and I can't come to an event that you had on September 13, 2022. But I'm going to tell you, you still have access to all of this valuable information. And I want Jeff to tell you how you can get in touch with him, how you can learn more about the topics that he'll be discussing. Can you share that, Jeff? And in closing, with that, I want to thank you for
Yeah.
coming today and for joining me. We had 30 minutes. I did this on my early lunch break.
Hey.
So just know that it's much appreciated that you were here today and you didn't have to take the time to do this. So please
So
share and
yeah, so before I tell them where they can find me, right?
okay.
Let me give you some value, whether you're coming or you're not coming, like, because this is just really helpful. I've told this to a lot of leaders, right? So a few questions that I would definitely have you start exploring with your staff. First, identify, do you know your staff's languages of appreciation, right? Is it gifts? Is it acts of service? Is it their words of affirmation? That needs to be found out so you can start to build trust with your staff. Second, what is the worst behavior you're currently tolerating at your work? Please figure out how to identify that and address that. And third, what is your staff's zone of genius? The work where they forget about time. If you can figure out those three things, that can start to create that playground and that psychologically safe space where people can actually thrive once again.
Yeah.
So if you want more information about me, you simply go to rediscoveryourplay.com, click on the Let's Play button, and we can connect. Or you can find me via social media. I'm on all the platforms at Jeff Harry Plays, JeffHarryPlays. Let's connect and figure out how we can make work suck less and help our staff engage more through positive psychology and play. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. Bye, everybody. I'm going to throw up a flyer with the information again and play you a little bit of cool music on our way out. Again, Jeff, can't even tell you how much this is appreciated. And I can't wait to see you. We can't wait to see you in a few days. Thanks. Have a great afternoon and safe trip.
Take care, everybody.